The fluorescent lights of the office hummed with a headache-inducing buzz. Marcus's office was a glass box in the center of the warehouse floor, elevated just enough so he could look down on us like a king in a tower. I sat in the uncomfortable guest chair, my hands folded tightly in my lap to stop them from shaking. "Elena," Marcus said, not looking up from his computer screen. "You know why you're here." "I assume it's about Monday," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I sent the email. Leo had an asthma attack. It was an emergency." Marcus finally looked up. He had the kind of face that was handsome in a magazine but terrifying in person. Cold eyes, a smile that didn't reach them, and a jaw set in permanent judgment. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. It wasn't a disciplinary slip. It was a payroll adjustment sheet. "I've reviewed your timesheet," he said casually. "And I've made some corrections." Picked up the paper. My stomach dropped. The number at the bottom wasn't just missing Monday's pay. It was missing 3 days' worth of wages. "This is wrong," I said, pointing at the total. "You docked me for Tuesday and Wednesday. I was here. I closed the shift both nights." "I call it a performance tax," Marcus said, leaning back in his expensive leather chair. "Your absence on Monday disrupted the workflow so severely that your productivity for the rest of the week was negligible. You were here, sure. But were you really here? Or were you distracted? I don't pay for distracted hours." "That's illegal," I snapped. I reached into my bag and pulled out the discharge papers from the ER. "Here. This is the proof. My son couldn't breathe. I was at the hospital." Marcus laughed. It was a dry, ugly sound. He took the paper from my hand, glanced at it, and then fed it into the shredder by his desk. The machine whirred loudly as the proof of my son's suffering turned into confetti. "We run a business, Elena, not a daycare," he said. "If you can't manage your home life, don't bring the mess into my warehouse." I stood up. Rage, hot and blinding, filled my chest. I opened my mouth to scream, to quit, to do something that would probably ruin me, when the door behind me swung open. It wasn't a coworker. It was Jack, the union representative. He was a big man, built like a retired linebacker, with gray hair and a reputation for silence. He rarely came to the floor. But today he was holding a bright red folder. Jack looked at the shredder, then at Marcus. "You might want to unshred that, Marcus," Jack said, his voice deep and rumbling like thunder. "We need to talk about the ghost hours you've been logging." 3 months ago this place had been different. We worked hard, sure. Logistics is a brutal industry. Heavy lifting, tight deadlines, endless boxes. But under the old director, Mr. Henderson, we were a team. He knew our names. He knew Leo had asthma. He knew my dream was to move up into management. I was the top performer on the floor. I had the highest pick rate, the lowest error margin, and I handled the new hire training. When Mr. Henderson retired, everyone assumed the promotion was mine. I had earned it. I had bled for it. Then came the announcement. Corporate had hired externally. They brought in Marcus. He arrived in a tailored suit that cost more than my rent. He had an MBA from a prestigious university and a resume full of buzzwords like lean optimization and workforce recalibration. He didn't introduce himself to us individually. He called an all-hands meeting on his first morning. We gathered on the warehouse floor, dusty and tired from the morning rush. Marcus stood on a pallet, looking at us like we were insects he needed to exterminate. "Let me be clear," he said into the microphone, his voice echoing off the metal rafters. "I am not here to be your friend. I am here to fix the numbers. Efficiency is down. Costs are up. That ends today." He paused, scanning the crowd. His eyes landed on me, then moved on dismissively. "I don't care about your personal lives," he continued. "I don't care about your commutes, your hobbies, or your families. I care about the bottom line. If you can't keep up with my pace, get out now. There is a line of people outside waiting for your jobs." The silence that followed was heavy. We weren't a team anymore. We were liabilities. The changes started immediately, and they were suffocating. Marcus called them efficiency protocols. Called them prison rules. First, the personal items disappeared. Pictures of kids, small plants, water bottles with stickers. All banned. Clutter breeds laziness, Marcus declared in a memo. My desk, once warm and welcoming, became a gray slab of misery. Then came the bathroom policy. We had to log out for any break longer than 5 minutes. If you took 6 minutes, you got a warning. 3 warnings and you were written up. But it was the parents he targeted the hardest. He seemed to have a personal vendetta against anyone with responsibilities outside the warehouse walls. If someone left at 5 p.m. on the dot to pick up a child from daycare, Marcus would be standing by the time clock, checking his watch and shaking his head. Part-timers, he would mutter loud enough for us to hear. Pushed back. I was the floor lead after all. During a production meeting, I raised my hand. Marcus, I said calmly. The team is burning out. Morale is at an all-time low. If we treat people like robots, they break like robots. We need flexibility. Marcus looked at me with cold amusement. Flexibility is a luxury, Elena. And you haven't earned it. From that moment on, I was marked. I wasn't just an employee. I was the enemy. The retaliation was subtle at first. My emails went unanswered. My requests for equipment repairs were ignored. Then, 2 weeks ago, I walked in on a Friday to find the schedule posted. My shift had been changed without notice. I was rostered for mandatory overtime on Saturday, the one weekend a month my ex-husband couldn't take Leo. I can't work Saturday, I told Marcus. I have my son. Then find a sitter, he said, not looking up. Or find a new job. The emergency happened at 2 a.m. on a Monday. I woke up to the sound of wheezing. It's a sound every parent of an asthmatic child dreads. The high-pitched, desperate whistle of air trying to force its way through closed lungs. I rushed into Leo's room. He was sitting up in bed, his chest heaving, his lips turning a terrifying shade of blue. Mommy, he gasped. Can't breathe. I didn't panic. Panic wastes time. I grabbed the nebulizer, but the treatment wasn't working fast enough. His numbers on the oximeter were dropping. 92, 88, 85. Okay, baby, we're going for a ride, I said, scooping him up. He felt so light, so fragile. I drove to the ER with my hazard lights flashing, holding his hand while I steered with the other. The triage nurse took one look at him and rushed us back. They put him on oxygen and started the steroids. It took 3 hours for his breathing to stabilize. At 5:30 a.m., sitting in the plastic chair next to his hospital bed, watching his chest finally rise and fall in a steady rhythm, I remembered work. My shift started at 8 a.m. Pulled out my phone. My hands were still trembling from the adrenaline. I texted Marcus directly. Elena. Emergency. In ER with Leo. Severe attack. He's stable but I can't leave him. Won't make 8 a.m. shift. Waited. The 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Marcus. If you aren't here by 8 o'clock, don't bother coming in tomorrow either. I stared at the screen. No, is he okay? No, understood. Just a threat. I looked at my sleeping son, hooked up to tubes and wires. I turned off my phone. I returned to work on Wednesday. Leo was home with my mother recovering, but I was exhausted. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours in 2 days. But I needed the money. I needed to work. I walked into the building with my head held high, ready to apologize for the absence and get straight to catching up. I swiped my badge at the turnstile. Beep beep. Access denied. I tried again. Access denied. My heart hammered in my chest. Had he actually fired me? Via text. I had to go to the security desk. The guard, a nice guy named Stan who used to give Leo lollipops, looked uncomfortable. Sorry, Elena. System says you're locked out. You gotta go to IT. The walk to the IT department felt like a parade of shame. People stared. Whispers followed me like a shadow. Did she get fired? I heard she just didn't show up. The IT tech reinstated my access with a sympathetic grimace. Marcus flagged your account as abandoned. I reset it. Finally got to my desk. It was a mess. My files were moved. My dual monitors were gone, replaced by a single old screen. And the project I had been leading, the logistics overhaul for the holiday season, was gone. I looked across the room. The new intern, a kid named Tyler who had started 3 weeks ago, was sitting at a large desk, fumbling with my spreadsheets. He looked panicked. Marcus walked by my desk. He didn't stop. He slowed down just enough to lean in, his cologne thick and cloying. I told you there are consequences for unreliability, he whispered. Maybe now you'll learn your place. Payday was supposed to be a relief. Rent was due, the electric bill was overdue, and now I had a new stack of hospital bills for the ER copay. I opened my banking app on my lunch break, sitting in my car because the break room felt hostile. I tapped the screen. The balance loaded. And blinked. I refreshed the page. The number didn't change. It was half. Literally half of my usual paycheck. No, I whispered. I scrambled to open the payroll portal on my phone. I pulled up the pay stub. The sick day for Monday was marked as unpaid leave, which I expected since I had used up my sick days earlier in the year for Leo's checkups. But Tuesday and Wednesday, days I had worked, days I had stayed late to fix Tyler's mistakes, were marked as 0 hours. There was a note next to the adjustment code. Administrative override, obster. Called HR immediately. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the phone twice. This is Elena from Logistics, I told the rep. My paycheck is wrong. I'm missing 16 hours of pay. Let me check, the woman on the line said. Heard typing. Ah yes, I see the flag here. Operations Director Marcus flagged those hours as non-productive time. According to the notes, you were present but failed to meet efficiency quotas, rendering the hours billable as 0. That's wage theft. I screamed. I was working. I have emails. I have logs. I can't change a director override, Elena, the rep said, her voice robotic. You have to take it up with him. That led me to Marcus's office. To the shredder. To the moment where I tried to be diplomatic. I had walked in there hoping there was a shred of humanity left in him. I had pleaded. Marcus, please, I had said before the shredding started. I need that money. Leo's medication isn't fully covered. Rent is due. You can write me up, you can suspend me, but you can't take the money I earned. He had smiled. That was the worst part. He enjoyed it. It's a lesson, Elena, he had said, toying with his pen. You need to learn priorities. If you prioritize your kid over this company, the company won't prioritize you. Maybe a light paycheck will teach you to find a babysitter next time. That was when I realized. This wasn't management. This wasn't about efficiency or quotas or business. This was personal cruelty. He wanted to break me because I dared to have a life he couldn't control. I stopped begging. The tears dried up instantly. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a small, sad man drunk on a teaspoon of power. I stood up. I didn't say another word. I walked out, went to the stairwell, and dialed Jack's number. Jack, I said when he answered. I need help. He stole my wages. I met Jack an hour later at a diner 3 blocks away from the warehouse. I sat in the booth, staring at my cold coffee. Jack slid into the seat opposite me. He looked tired, lines of stress etched deep around his eyes. Show me, he said. I pulled up the pay stubs on my phone. I showed him the text messages from the ER night. I showed him the HR log where the non-productive note was entered. Jack studied them in silence. He frowned, his thick eyebrows knitting together. This isn't just bullying, Elena, he grunted. This is wage theft. Plain and simple. Federal violation. I know, I said. But HR won't help. They said he has the authority to override. He has the authority to approve hours, not erase them, Jack corrected. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. But here's the thing. You're not the only one. My head snapped up. What? I've been tracking strange payroll dips for 3 months, Jack said. Ever since Marcus started. Little things. 15 minutes here. An hour there. Mostly from the guys on the night shift who don't check their stubs carefully. Or the immigrants who are too scared to complain. He pulled a red folder out of his bag. He opened it just enough for me to see rows of spreadsheets. He's shaving hours, Jack whispered. And I figured out why. His contract. I found a copy. Jack tapped the folder. He gets a quarterly bonus based on departmental savings. Every dollar he shaves off the payroll goes directly into his savings metric. And a percentage of that savings goes into his pocket. Felt sick. He's stealing our rent money. To pad his bonus? Exactly, Jack said. And now that he's hit you for 3 days at once, he's getting greedy. He's getting sloppy. We walked back into the office together. That brings us to the moment the door swung open. To the moment Jack walked in with the red folder. You might want to unshred that, Marcus, Jack said again, stepping fully into the room. Marcus froze. His hand hovered over the shredder. The smirk vanished, replaced by a flash of genuine fear. He knew Jack. Everyone knew Jack. Jack wasn't just a rep. He was the guy who had organized the strike of '09. Jack, Marcus stammered, standing up. This is a private meeting. You can't just barge in here. I can when a member calls me about illegal wage deductions, Jack said calmly. He tossed the red folder onto Marcus's desk. It landed with a heavy thud. We know about the bonus scheme, Marcus, Jack said. The color drained from Marcus's face. I don't know what you're talking about. That's absurd. This was a clerical error. System glitch. I was just explaining to Elena that. Save it, Jack cut him off. I've got statements from 6 other employees. I've got the timestamps of your manual overrides. Marcus tried to puff up his chest. He tried to find that arrogance again. I'm management, Jack. I have discretion. You can't touch me. The union contract has loopholes. Jack smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I can't touch you. Maybe. But the Department of Labor can. And the IRS tends to get very interested when payroll taxes don't match hours worked. Jack leaned over the desk. I'm not here to negotiate, Marcus. I'm here to witness. And right now, I'm witnessing you shredding evidence. Get out! Marcus screamed, pointing at the door. His composure shattered completely. Both of you. Get out of my office. Jack nodded at me. Come on, Elena. We made our point. We walked out. The moment the door closed, I heard Marcus scramble for his phone. I stopped by the water cooler pretending to fill my bottle, but really I just needed to breathe. My legs felt like jelly. I walked toward the bathroom, needing a moment of privacy. The bathroom shared a wall with Marcus's office. The building was old, and the ventilation ducts carried sound perfectly. I stood in the stall, pressing my forehead against the cool metal door. You have to fix this. I heard Marcus's muffled voice through the vent. He was screaming. I don't care. Retrodate it. File a pay now. Say she was incompetent for months. We need a paper trail to justify the deduction. I held my breath. He was talking to HR. If the labor board looks at this, and there's no disciplinary record, I'm dead. Marcus yelled. Just forge the dates. I'll sign them. I realized with a jolt of terror that the war wasn't over. It was just escalating. He wasn't going to admit he stole the money. He was going to frame me. He was going to destroy my professional reputation to cover his crime. I got back to my desk 10 minutes later. My computer chimed. New message. HR notification. Disciplinary action. Opened it. Then another chimed. And another. 5 emails in total. They were final written warnings. But the dates were wrong. The first one was dated 2 months ago. Reason, failure to meet quota. The second was from last month. Reason, insubordination. The third was from last week. Reason, time theft and extended breaks. I scrolled to the bottom of the PDFs. There was my digital signature. A signature I had never signed. He had forged them. He had actually gone into the system and backdated documents to make it look like I was the worst employee in the company. My phone rang. It was Jack. "Elena," he said, his voice urgent. "The union lawyers are worried." They looked at the file Marcus just uploaded to the central server. "These documents. They look real. The timestamps on the signatures match the dates on the forms. He forged them." I whispered, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "I heard him on the phone. He told HR to retrodate them." "We know that," Jack said. "But proving it is different. If the metadata says you signed them 2 months ago, it's your word against the system. And the system is owned by the company. If we can't prove forgery, you lose. And you won't just lose the money, Elena. You'll be fired for cause. No unemployment. No severance. I needed a witness. I needed someone to prove that on the days I supposedly signed those warnings, I was actually working, happy, and not in disciplinary meetings. I looked across the break room. Sarah was there. She was a packer I had trained myself. We used to eat lunch together every day. She knew Marcus hated me. She knew I was a good worker. I sat down next to her. "Sarah," I said quietly. "I need help. Marcus is forging write-ups. He says I signed a warning on October 12th. Do you remember that day? It was your birthday. We had cake in the break room. I was with you all afternoon." Sarah looked at me. Her eyes were wide with fear. She glanced toward the glass office where Marcus was watching us. I don't remember," Sarah mumbled, looking down at her sandwich. "Sarah, please," I begged. "If you just tell the union rep that I wasn't in a disciplinary meeting that day." "I can't, Elena," Sarah whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "He fired Mike yesterday for attitude. Have 2 kids. Can't lose this job. I can't be seen talking to you." She stood up and walked away, leaving her half-eaten lunch on the table. The culture of fear Marcus had built was absolute. He had isolated me completely. I was radioactive. I walked out to my car at the end of the shift. There was a piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. Pulled it out. It was a typed note. No handwriting. "Stop digging or you lose your health insurance. Think about Leo." That night I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by papers. My laptop hummed in the silence of the apartment. Leo was asleep in the next room. His breathing machine hissing rhythmically. Think about Leo. The threat backfired. If they had threatened me, I might have given up. But threatening my sick child, that didn't make me scared. Made me dangerous. I logged into my personal cloud. I didn't have access to the company email server anymore. They had likely scrubbed it. But I had a habit of emailing myself drafts of my work to work on at home. I started building a timeline. I cross-referenced the dates of the forged warnings with my own records. Warning 1. October 12th. Signature time, 2:15 p.m. I checked my Google Photos. On October 12th at 2:15 p.m., I had taken a picture of a damaged shipment on the loading dock. The metadata on the photo proved I was on the floor, not in an office. Warning 2. November 5th. Signature time, 9:30 a.m. Checked my text. I was texting Marcus about a delayed truck at 9:32 a.m. Why would I text him about work if I was in the middle of being disciplined by him? Then I found the smoking gun. Warning 3. November 20th. Signature time, 4 p.m. I frowned. November 20th. That date rang a bell. I opened LinkedIn. I searched for Marcus's profile. I scrolled back. There it was. Post from Marcus. Great day hitting the links at the Regional Supply Chain Summit. Networking with the best. The location tagged was a golf course in Arizona. The date was November 20th. He wasn't even in the state. He couldn't have administered a disciplinary meeting in person. I grabbed a screenshot. My heart was pounding. I had him. The next morning I went to the server room. The IT guy, Kevin, was sitting amidst a tangle of wires, drinking an energy drink. He wore a hoodie and looked exhausted. "Kevin," I said, "I need a favor." He looked wary. "I can't give you admin access, Elena. Marcus is watching everything." "I don't need access," I said. "I just need you to look at something." Unofficially. I showed him the screenshot of the forged warning and the picture of Marcus golfing. "He created these documents yesterday," I said. "But the system says they are months old. How did he do it?" Kevin squinted at the screen. "He probably changed the system clock on his local machine before creating the PDF, then uploaded it. It's a rookie trick." "Can you prove it?" "Yes." "Can you see the upload logs?" Kevin hesitated. He hated Marcus too. Marcus had cut the IT budget in half last month. "If I look," Kevin whispered, "and he finds out." "He won't," I promised. "Just tell me when those files were created." Kevin typed furiously for a minute. He hit enter. A list of code scrolled down the black screen. "Got it," Kevin said. He pulled out his phone and took a picture of the screen. He texted it to me. The log showed the file creation time. Yesterday, 8:14 p.m. The file name, disciplinary _ backdated _2.pdf. He was so arrogant he even put backdated in the file name. "You're a lifesaver, Kevin," I said. "Burn him," Kevin said. I walked into the HR director's office with my head high. I had the red folder Jack gave me. I had the photo of the logs. I had the golf photo. The HR director, a woman named Linda who always smiled too much, motioned for me to sit. "Elena," she said warmly, "I understand you're upset about the disciplinary actions. They are forged," I said, laying the evidence on the desk. "Here is proof Marcus wasn't in the state for one of them. Here is the IT log showing they were created last night. He is framing me to cover up wage theft." Linda looked at the papers. Her smile didn't waver. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look angry. She looked resigned. She sighed and closed the folder. "Elena," she said softly, "Marcus is a high performer. His cost-saving measures have saved the company millions this quarter. The board is very happy with him. He is stealing from us," I said, my voice rising. "We can offer you a severance package," Linda said, sliding a prepared document across the desk. 2 months' pay. Full benefits for 6 months. You resign. You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You leave quietly. I stared at her. "You're protecting him." "We are protecting the company," Linda corrected. "Take the deal, Elena. Take it for your son. If you fight this, we have a team of lawyers who will drag it out for years. Can you afford to not get paid for years?" I sat at my kitchen table that evening, the severance agreement in front of me. 2 months' pay. It was enough to clear the hospital debt. It was enough to breathe for a while. I was so tired. Fighting felt impossible. They were giants, and I was just a mom with an empty bank account. Leo walked into the kitchen. He was holding his favorite stuffed dinosaur. He climbed onto my lap and looked at the papers. "Why are you crying, Mommy?" he asked. "Mommy has a hard choice to make," I said, kissing his forehead. "Is it about the bad man?" Leo asked. He knew I was stressed about work. "Yeah," I said. "Don't let the bad man win," Leo said simply. "You tell me that all the time. Bullies only win if you run away." I looked at my son. If I signed this paper, I was running away. I was taking the money and letting Marcus do this to the next single mom. I was letting him win. I felt a fire kindle in my chest. It burned away the exhaustion. I picked up the severance offer. I ripped it in half. Then in quarters. "You're right, baby," I said. "We aren't running." I met Jack at the Union Hall the next morning. It was a gritty, smoke-filled room that smelled of stale coffee and justice. "They tried to buy me off," I told him. "HR is burying it." Jack nodded grimly. I figured. The corruption goes higher than Marcus. If they admit he stole wages to boost numbers, they have to admit they incentivized it. So what do we do? Asked. We stop playing by their rules, Jack said. He pulled out a small black device. It was a digital recorder the size of a USB drive. We go to the State Labor Board, Jack said. And the Corporate Ethics Hotline, the external one that bypasses local HR. But we need a confession. We need him to say it. He won't confess, I said. He will if he thinks he's won, Jack said. Narcissists love to gloat. Go back in there. Defeated. Apologize. Make him feel like a god. And record every word. Is that legal? Asked. One-party consent state, Jack grinned. As long as you are part of the conversation, you can record it. I took the recorder. I'll do it. I requested a one-on-one with Marcus. I waited until 5 p.m., when the office was emptying out. I walked in with my shoulders slumped. I didn't wear makeup. I looked like I hadn't slept in a week, which wasn't hard to fake. Marcus was packing up his bag. He looked annoyed. Make it quick, Elena. I stood in front of his desk. I looked at the floor. I'm sorry, Marcus, I whispered. He paused. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I said louder. I was wrong. I shouldn't have challenged you. I shouldn't have gone to the union. I'm desperate. Leo is sick, and I can't feed him. Please. If I admit I was wrong if I sign the warnings, will you just give me my hours back? I let a tear fall. It was real tears, but they were tears of rage, not sadness. Marcus sat back down. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. He loved this. This was what he wanted. Submission. You finally get it, he said softly. He leaned forward. I don't care about the hours, Elena. The money is nothing. Care about submission. You admit you're nothing without this job. You admit that I own your time. And maybe I'll fix your pay. So. It wasn't about performance. Asked trembling. It's never about performance, Marcus scoffed. It's about knowing your place. I took your money to teach you a lesson. And I think you've learned it. He stood up and patted my shoulder. Sign the warnings tomorrow. Then we'll see. He nodded. Thank you, Marcus. I walked out. I got into the elevator. I pressed the stop button on the recorder in my pocket. I had him. Jack wanted me to send the recording to the labor board immediately. But I had a better idea. The labor board takes months. I wanted justice now. The next morning I didn't release the recording. Instead I went to the warehouse floor. I found Tyler the intern. Found Sarah. Found the night shift lead. Check your pay stubs, I whispered. Look closely at the overtime hours. Look at the deductions. I planted the seed. By lunch, the whisper had turned into a roar. 3 other people found missing hours. Then 5. Then 10. He's stealing from us, someone shouted in the break room. Panic spread like wildfire. The fear of Marcus evaporated, replaced by the fury of people who worked too hard to be robbed. A mob started forming outside Marcus's glass office. They weren't violent, but they were loud. They were demanding answers. Marcus came out looking flushed. Get back to work. All of you. This is a workplace, not a zoo. But he had lost control. He looked at me. I was standing at my desk, calmly typing. I didn't look up. The unrest was so bad that corporate had to intervene. The external corporate VP, a man named Mr. Sterling from headquarters, flew in the next day. This wasn't because they cared about us. It was because Jack had filed a formal complaint with the labor board citing imminent labor unrest. The boardroom was packed. Mr. Sterling sat at the head. Marcus sat to his right, wearing his best suit, looking solemn. Charlinda was there too. I was called in. Jack came with me. Marcus spoke first. He was smooth. This unrest is unfortunate, Marcus said. But it is being orchestrated by a single toxic employee. Elena has been agitating the staff, spreading lies about payroll errors to cover up her own disciplinary issues. She is a cancer, sir. She needs to be excised. He slid the forged warnings across the table to Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling looked at them, then at me. These are serious infractions, Elena. Inciting a riot. Time theft. He's lying, I said. We have the documents, Sterling said sternly. Do you have anything to say before we have security escort you out? I stood up. My legs didn't shake this time. Yes, I said. I do. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a USB drive. I placed it on the polished table. Before you fire me, listen to this. I didn't wait for permission. I plugged it into the presentation laptop. Played the file. Marcus's voice filled the room. Clear. Arrogant. Undeniable. I don't care about the hours, Elena. The money is nothing. Care about submission. You admit you're nothing without this job. I took your money to teach you a lesson. The silence in the room was absolute. Marcus's face turned the color of ash. He stared at the speaker, then at me. I didn't stop there. And here is the IT log proving he forged the warnings last night. I pulled up the image. And here is the spreadsheet, Jack added, tossing his red folder onto the table. Detailed proof of wage theft affecting 42 employees over 3 months. Total stolen $15,000. Total bonus paid to Marcus for savings, $20,000. Mr. Sterling stared at the table. He was a corporate suit, yes. But he wasn't stupid. He knew what a lawsuit looked like. And this looked like a multimillion-dollar class action nightmare. He slowly turned his head to look at Marcus. Marcus tried to speak. Sir. It's taken out of context. She provoked me. It was entrapment. Mr. Sterling held up a hand. Stop. You falsified federal documents to pad your bonus, Marcus, Sterling said. His voice ice cold. That's not management. That's a felony. That's fraud. I was doing it for the company. Marcus pleaded. You were doing it for yourself, Sterling said. You exposed this firm to federal investigation. Sterling turned to Linda, the HR director. And you validated these documents. You offered a severance to silence a whistleblower. Linda went pale. I was following the director's lead. We will discuss your complicity next, Sterling said. Pack your things. Sterling hit the intercom button. Security to the boardroom. 2 minutes later the guards arrived. Stan was one of them. He looked confused. Escort him out, Sterling pointed at Marcus. Me. Marcus squeaked. Yes. You are terminated effective immediately. We will be contacting the authorities regarding the fraud. Marcus stood up. He looked small. The arrogance was gone, leaving only a pathetic, trembling man. They marched him out onto the warehouse floor. The entire team stopped working. Silence fell over the cavernous room. Marcus walked past us, holding a cardboard box with his stapler and his nameplate. He looked at me. I think he expected me to gloat, to smile, to flip him off. I didn't. I stayed seated at my desk. I turned my attention back to my screen. I continued working on the logistics spreadsheet. He wasn't worth my attention. He was nothing. As he reached the exit doors, Kevin, the IT guy, started a slow clap. Blap, blap. Then Sarah joined in. And Jack. Then the whole floor. It wasn't applause for him. It was the sound of a kingdom falling. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers and auditors. The company entered full damage control mode. To avoid the lawsuit Jack was threatening, they agreed to pay back every cent of stolen wages. With interest. I got a check for $4,000. Sarah got $800. Tyler got $200. Linda was fired. Mr. Sterling stayed in town to oversee the transition. One afternoon, Sterling called me into the glass office. Felt different now. The air was lighter. Elena, he said. We need a new operations director. We need someone the team trusts. Someone who knows the floor. He slid a contract across the desk. The job is yours. If you want it. I looked at the salary. It was triple what I was making. It was enough to buy a house. It was enough to never worry about asthma medication again. But I didn't sign it immediately. I have a condition, I said. What condition? Sterling asked. The sick leave policy, I said. It changes. No penalty for family emergencies. No performance tax. For parents. And we hire more staff so overtime isn't mandatory. Sterling looked at me. He smiled. Done. I signed the paper. See my new office. I had removed the blinds so the team could see me. I had put a picture of Leo on the desk. A real plant sat in the corner. It was 5 p.m. My alarm went off. I stood up. Packed my bag. Leaving early, boss? Kevin asked, walking by. Leaving on time, Kevin, I smiled. I have a date with my son and a large pizza. I walked out of the warehouse. The air smelled fresh. I got into my car and called Jack. It's done, I said. Good work, Director, Jack laughed. Hey, did you hear about Marcus? No, I said. And I don't care. Well, you might enjoy this, Jack said. He's currently arguing his case with a public defender. Turns out, he spent all that bonus money on golf trips and can't afford a real lawyer. I laughed. Hung up the phone. I drove to daycare. Leo ran into my arms. Mommy, you're early. I'm always going to be early from now on, I said, picking him up. I didn't just get my money back. Got my life back. And as I drove home, watching the sunset, I knew that no one would ever make me choose between my son and my survival ever again.